Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Whitmix's webinar, How to Facilitate Occlusal Rims Quickly and Easily in the Dental Office or Lab with Phil Mortenson. My name is Craig Pickett, and I'm the Manager of Technical Education for Whitmix, and I'll be facilitating today's webinar. I'd like to begin with a few housekeeping items. First of all, in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you should see a questions box. And you can feel free to use that box at any time. Type in any question you might have throughout the presentation. We will be answering your questions at the end of the seminar, but don't hesitate to ask. Some of them might be a little long, and in that case, we'll probably email you that answer, but we'll try and cover everybody's question. Next, if you're a CDT or if you're have another qualification that requires certification hours, this webinar is approved for 1 hour of CE credit towards that national board certification. You will receive an email within 1 to 2 days that'll let you know how to obtain that credit. Also, this webinar is being recorded, and within about 48 hours it'll be up on the Whitmix website at whitmix.com. in the webinar section. If you are, let's go back just for a second. If you are not a CDT, but are an assistant or a hygienist or a doctor, and also need credits, please wait for that email, let us know, and we will give you a certificate to send into your governing body. So, with that said, let me introduce you to Phil, I'm sorry. This morning we have the pleasure of introducing Phil Mortenson. Phil has been the director of the Mortenson Denture Center since 2015. He's worked in various positions in several dental laboratories since 1996. Some of those positions include the Vice President of Business Development, laboratory manager, waxer, and denture finisher at the bench. And in addition to obtaining his degree in dental technology, Phil has also worked chairside as an EDDA or an EDDA, which for those of you who are unaware stands for Expanded Duty Dental Assistant, where he is responsible for placing temporaries and permanent restorations and removing sutures, taking x-rays, those kinds of things. Today, Phil is going to be speaking to us on making occlusal rims quickly and easily. And so, Phil, if you're ready, let's go ahead and begin.
Very good. Thank you, Craig. I appreciate that. And want to welcome everybody, and we'll go over this real quick. Like I said, we're going to go over how to fabricate occlusal rims quickly and easily in the dental office or lab. I bring that up because, like Craig just stated, I am an EDDA in the state of Kentucky, so we can do quite a bit in the mouth, and so that's where I really expanded my capacities as a technician. I started in Crown and Bridge and went into dentures, and I just enjoy dentures a little bit more, so now I get to run this. So let's go on to the next slide here. Like I said, I just introduced myself a little bit with my background. I said what made me a better technician was working chairside and being able to see what goes on with the patient's mouth and how everything looks and finishes it. So my disclaimer for my occlusal rims, they're a little bit different than how most people do them because we make them quickly and right here in the office, chairside almost. I have a little lab next to some of our operatories, and we run them back and forth into doing this. So let's go into this. So, like, how to make occlusal rims. You know, this would be for anybody starting out, or technician, assistant, or even someone in dental school. You know, and what we're going to use them for is for getting that. Have you ever had a day like this? Believe it or not, working chairside, you would see this more than you would imagine. But I know when we get it in the lab, we're like, what am I supposed to do with something that looks like this? And, you know, we all try our best, and we might have to see it come back and forth. And then, you know, we get this from the doctor, but have you ever had a day like this? Believe it or not, I think this has happened to me back when I first started making custom trays. And not paying attention, I looked down and realized that I had what I had done. the doctor wouldn't have been too happy to get that one. So let's just get into how we can start doing this. For example, I'm going to go through what we do here at chairside. We're right here, they're in an op, we come in, we take an impression. Most of the time they're just an alginate impression. We take these alginates and we run them over here to our lab. We pour them up quickly. I don't use snapstone or anything. I prefer true clay. I prefer buff stone from Whitmix, and we pour them up. I put them on a little heat plate so they set up a little bit faster. We'll clean it up on the maul trimmer. I'm sorry I didn't have these already trimmed and cleaned up when I took this picture. So we take that and just make sure that we have our borders and everything that we're going to really need to do an occlusal rim. Believe it or not, there's many ways to do the block out. To do it quick and easy, I use petroleum jelly. I just actually put a nice evenly coat all over the entire model. It might be a little thick if there's a heavier area that needs to block out. If it was big enough, I probably would put a little bit of wax or even use a type of separator to make the models clean and easy to go from there. But since we're just doing it so fast, I just prefer the petroleum jelly. So let's go into the next. The base paint material. I didn't want to bore you all, but I've been going through old slides. You know, you can do the old suck down material with the thermoplastics. You can do the acrylic. You can do with even a wax base plate. But to me, the most forgiving thing is the light cure. This is a brand that I used here. I just buy it from probably from Zon or any any one of your vendors would sell this. It's just like the name brand probably out there that everybody knows about is Triad. So we use this here, and I like using the pink, and I can also use it to go make a custom tray if I need to. So there's many uses for the material. And we'll go over why I like it. It's forgiving, very easy to use, like I said. The wax is great too, doesn't lock down over your models. Nothing I hate more than I'm in the middle of making my occlusal rim and I'm trying to keep a patient here and get them all out in one day to save a visit. We might schedule the patient for an hour. I get them in, we get their impressions, pour them up, and make their occlusal rim so we can get them out within about 40 minutes to an hour. And then we don't have to send it off to another lab that does it or things like that. Many times I'm so busy in my lab seeing patients that I don't get to do a lot of the work myself. So I use other local labs here to help me do my wax ups and my finishes if needs be. Most of the time I'm just doing little things, relines, repairs, and just seeing the patient. So when I say that, I send them out, I want them to be ready to go so I can go straight to try and get it turned right back around and try to condense everything into a timely manner. Now, the thermoplastics and the acrylics, I've had issues where if you don't do your block out that well, you break the model, and that kind of defeats the purpose. I need to go back and take a whole new impression for the lab just to send it off to the lab for them to do the setup. So here's some little pictures here of what I do with the light cure material. As you can see, I just put a brand new Bart Parker blade on. I lay it over top after I've blocked it out, and I just clean it up very quickly. The material, it works like a soft wax. You put it where you need it, and I usually cut it right around the height of contour. When I say height of contour of the ridge. You don't want to lock anything down, so just follow it right across there. I agreed with that. There's not a lot of great retention. Sometimes if the retention's not there at all, I might even have to use denture adhesive to even help hold it in. But normally we don't have any issues with that. Oh, I'm sorry. Got to back out. I'm sorry. There we go. We'll switch to the next one. So you can see after you clean it up, it's just a simple little base. There's on the lower. And then that's how I start laying it across the upper. And like, again, just follow the height, the contour. When you're done, it will look something like this. Right now it hasn't been cured, so it's tacky. So I just kind of put it where I want it and make sure that it looks good there. Then we stick it inside the light cure unit. We run it here for 1 minute on both sides. So I let it run on top. I take it off of the model, flip it over, and sometimes even the other side might be a little still tacky and might not be set up all the way. But that's to my advantage of not breaking my model. What I can do is I can pull it off and I can kind of remold it or give it the border I want and let it cure. Now, once we're done with that, what do I do is I just take it over to my lathe and I finish it. And I use this 3M disc that I get from Whitmix, and it is great for finishing any acrylics, any type of thermoplastics, and even this light cure material. So it's my go-to disc that I use, and I try to do everything on the lathe. Now this is a little video, and I'm going to start it, but I'm going to shut this volume off, and I'll just narrate as it goes. It's probably pretty loud grinding on it. Here we go. So I just take it to take any sharp edges off. I just go back and forth. As you can see, it finishes pretty much just like acrylic. What I like doing once I'm done taking off any sharp edges, I just did the upper. I'm going to just go over the lower very quickly too. I like cleaning it up when I'm done, getting any residue off of it. It still seems to have a little tackiness to it, so the dust can stick to the inside. So I want to clean it up real good before I take it to the patient anyways and get it real cleaned up and sterilize it. But it's very simple, just taking off the sharp edges. Once I'm done with that, I'll switch over to a heavier acrylic burr, and I'll go around the outside to take off any rough spots with the disc. Sometimes I use it to take out thick spots, and you can also take it and use it on the inside. If you did notice, I will go back and forth with the model, making that sure that I will go on and seat all the way. If something's holding it up, I will relieve that undercut and go from there. Very good. And right here, I've actually started an upper and a lower here, and I think I end up doing one more upper in this little video, just showing you how it is all done. So, like I said, I highly recommend this disc from Whitmix. It's made by 3M. You can see there's two types. Here's another one just right down in here. This one's a little bit coarser material, so that's what I recommend on almost any type of finish that I do. So let's move on to the next screen. Now in this little video I'm going to show you, this is what the tools I use when I make our occlusal rims. Here in my lab we have a little Bunsen burner. I'm sure many places do, but there are some institutions even out in California where you can't have an open flame. And so I can see that. Believe me, and using the little plate and heating everything up, that's one thing, but it really simplifies what we have to do with this great product that Whitmix has out, and we're going to show a little bit of it and go over that. So like I said, I use a Bunsen burner, lab knife, the little waxing iron, a torch, and this electric occlusal rim former. So let's start this video up real quick. So I'm just getting ready here to show you what I use. There's the electric occlusal rim former by Whitmix, and that's my main tool. That gets a lot done. Has the paddle there that heats up, even constant temperature. Turn it on. You can see the lights come on. That's my favorite setting. I crank it up pretty good and just leave it sitting there. And here's my Bunsen burner, my lab knife, and my iron. Other than that, and my little torch, I'm sorry. I use when I make these occlusal rims. So let's go over here real quick, and we'll go to the next little video here. This is where you're going to watch me make and use the wax and form it all up. You know, I use just the seasoned wax, you know, the base plate wax that you can get. This brand I'm using here is a Patterson brand. One that I've used a lot too that I really like is Yates. The Patterson's pretty pink. It's probably a little bit more pink than I would prefer to use in someone's mouth. You get a lot of patients talking back like, oh, are my dentures going to look like this and things like that, but it goes pretty good. So this one's a little bit longer video. We're going to start it and I'll just narrate it as we go. So there's the base plate wax, and what I do first is I'll just use it to, in my Bunsen burner, I'll just heat up the wax. Got to grab my base plates that are already finished. They've been cleaned, and I just warm up the wax, and then I just fold it into like a little rectangle. I don't buy the preformed stuff. I know that they have that out there. You can do that too. There you go. So I first get it that way. Then I fold that in half one more time to get a little bit of thickness. And we're going to go over the measurements of a occlusal rim once we're done here. I just wanted to show you all how we did them. And, you know, this is a quick process. Once you get the models poured up and it's ready to go, it should only take you literally about 10 minutes max to make an upper and lower rim. So once I get it like that, now none of that's bonded together. When I say that, it wasn't hot enough to melt it all together, so it's layer upon layer, just kind of folded upon itself. So I get it nice and soft, and there I pulled out a little trash can. You can see how it's not all together as one piece, and what I want to do is try to make it one piece so it doesn't delaminate when I'm in the mouth. So this is where I use the occlusal rim former. See, that plate's hot. What I'm doing is I'm just smoothing off the lengthwise of that to make it nice and soft and just seal all of that wax together. And then I do the ends just like this, same thing. You can see now it's all one piece and formed together, and then I just, you know, form it right there. So when it's nice and soft, it also helps it using the electric rim former to make it soft so it sticks better to the base plate. When I was doing it with just the torch and the iron and a hot plate that I would heat up, I would have more and more delaminization, or my actual wax rim would fall apart even in the mouth, or the patient would bite down hard enough and it would come apart into a bunch of little pieces and kind of defeat the purpose. Since I've been using this electric occlusal rim former, I haven't had any of those issues. So again, I heat up my iron, and all I'm doing now is I'm sealing the wax to the base plate. And today, I know most of you have a little handle or a little stand that will hold your iron in the Bunsen burner. I did not use that this day, so it would have been a smart idea. I wanted to have a more open view of what I was doing. So I was having to heat it as we go. But once you get it nice and sealed to that base plate, I just do the same thing that we did before. And I know it might be a little bit monotonous, but I'm going to show it a few more times just so people can see what we're doing, since I'm doing a couple here. And we'll be able to answer any questions at the end here. Very good. Let's see if I can speed this up a little. I apologize. Oh, there we go. So there we have it. I've sealed it all the way around. And then I'm going to take my little ruler that I have here and take my measurements. And I've pre-cut my ruler to make it a little bit easier for me. And I just hold it up, put it all the way down in the vestibule, and I go up. And now we'll go over some ideal measurements. Usually I'm right around 20, 21, max 22. And then I'm going to melt away that extra wax that I have with the occlusal rim former. I wish I had a better angle. I apologize for that. But what's nice is since it's a constant temperature, I can use it to shape and take away anything that we're doing right there. I even run it on the outsides if I have to, help smooth it up. Even in the back, it puts some nice solid edges right there. I can set my angle and it takes it right off. I'll even be working in the patient's mouth, and if the rim is too tall, more than we normally do, I believe it or not, I actually come right back into the lab. I'll have it ready to go, and instead of using a lab knife chair side and scrape and whittle away the wax to get it where I want it, I can bring it right back in here with this the electric rim former and just make it nice and smooth and say, you know what, that he's about 2 millimeters too high. You know, we need to get this VDO. Once we're in the chair, I didn't take many pictures in the chair. I could have done that too, but we get in there. Once we get that in, I use a papillometer, a facial meter, help get some measurements, help choose the molds. And at the same time, I mark my midline, find the high smile line, the low lip line. So again, what I'm doing here is I'm getting ready to do the lower. So I just form my wax plate into the shape I wanted. Now I'm going to blend it all together. What I'm looking for really when I make my wax rim, more than anything, I'm shooting for the VDO to help the lab out. I usually don't add too much for pushing the lip out or lip support unless I get it in the mouth and I really notice that there's a deficiency there of the support of the lip. So there I'm just double checking my heights, cutting away any excess wax off of the lower there. And we're trying to keep it right around about 2/3 covering the retromolar pad. So that's what I try to do, keep it right there to keep stability and balance in it. Nothing's worse than trying it in the mouth and it just keeps lifting up. Now, some of these occlusal rims I've received before from a lab, they look gorgeous like the ones we saw at the very start of the presentation, plenty of wax, plenty of lip support, but believe it or not, I've noticed multiple times, well, you can see I didn't seal that one very well to the base. I needed to warm it back up and get it sealed better. Nothing worse than that happened in the patient's mouth also. So what I was talking about when we were doing chair side with this, nothing's worse than having to grind so much away or whittle so much away. But as lab techs, it's better to put too much than too little. It's always easier to take away than add. So that's why I always would recommend this occlusal rim former. It just makes my life so much easier. Now there are a few other, we'll get into this once we're done with this video, other little helpers that Whitmix makes that are all electric with no flames that I would love to have. Even instead of using this iron, you could get a little electric waxer. That's probably next on my wish list to make all this happen. So we're just sealing it down. Again, I apologize. I just want to have some samples of just making something quick and simple. I probably am taking a lot more time than I would normally do with a patient sitting in the chair. I'm just cleaning off any wax that melted down onto the model from the base plate. Again, very simple. Just mark the height of contour. I use my blade against the ruler, say, okay, right there, we kind of eyeball it. I know you want a little bit of a transition top to bottom, you know, or from front to back at that angle. A lot of times I start high, just try to get it even. Now, if I am missing something in the mouth, but most of the time I've never had the issue of it being so short in the mouth I had to go add. I've seen it once or twice in the last year or so where I went back, added, again, very easy to do. It's a great little tool to have. At first, when I first got it, I thought the paddle was going to be too big and cumbersome to help me do what I needed to do, but what I like about it is it's a nice solid piece and it's large enough that I use it kind of just to watch as a ruler almost by eye where it needs to go and balance it out. So there I'm using the torch to kind of smooth out the rough edges. I don't have it here in the video. Most of the time I get back up and I go take it over to the sink. Well, I guess I do. And I run it under cold water, maybe take a paper towel and help buff and polish it. So it looks like we're done there. So, well, sorry, we just stalled out there. So that's basically all I make when I do these. And we get them right back in the lab. I will do some notches in it with a lab knife to give me some indexing for the blue moose bite that I normally squirt in there in the chair side before we send it off. So here's the measurements we had talked about I was going to give you. So the maxillary arch, we want to do the anterior wax rim height of 20 to 22 millimeters and the posterior height between 16 and 18. Normally, believe it or not, I don't measure that much in the posterior area. You kind of eyeball that. That's what I normally do. Now, the width is important too. I've done it before where I haven't had enough width and you put it in and the lower sticks out more than the upper, kind of putting them in a class 3, and when I know they're not in a class 3, so sometimes I just have to bulk it out to show them with the blue moose that I use chair side. So we want the, you know, the rim should be about 3 to 5 millimeters in width. In the posterior, a little bit wider. And what you're doing is you're helping the lab techs there to have enough wax to, you know, they're going to use this to set the teeth for your try-in. Right there, again, the occlusal rim needs to be properly sealed. I would spin them all around, make sure you don't have any large gaps or anything. And again, we were talking about the angle, 30-degree angle for the occlusal plane. In the next slide, we're going to talk about the mandibular arch. So height is 16 to 17. A lot of times I actually on the lower will go all the way, use up to 18, depending on how collapsed the bite is, how much ridge is left. And the posterior wax height, you know, like we talked about earlier, needs to cover 2/3 of the retromolar pad. The width of the anterior rim is a 3 to 5, and again, 8 to 10 millimeters in the posterior. What we're doing is trying to help the lab that helps me. I've asked them, do I need to add more? Do you want more wax? And they say they're happy with what they get, so that's why I kind of do them this way. And again, check for voids. Now, here's a picture again of the electroocclusal rim former. Like I said, it just works great. It's very clean, very easy to use. Over time, there will be a little bit of wax buildup in the handle there or in the base that you can see there to the left. Easily cleaned up. Let's see here, we'll go to the next screen here. So this is what I have on my bench. It's just sitting there, doesn't take up a lot of room. Some people where it's a big bulky thing, it is not. very simple to use. You turn it on, the lights come on. You can see when it's heating by the red light there. I usually turn that little knob to it's about a 3 on a clock. It works great, just keeps a constant temperature. So I always know I have control of the wax. If you're used to using the electric stuff instead of a flame, you'll know exactly what I mean. So here's the paddle. And what's nice, this paddle here will heat this entire surface. So you have plenty to set a large mouth, like a large rim, or even doing other things with wax. Now, here's the great resources that Whitmix has. Even before I gave this webinar, I went to their webinars and I watched multiple webinars. One I really recommend to watch if you're the next step is, they say, from Thomas Zaliski. He had one. The one that I really liked was the next level, part 2 of. So it's taking your understanding of dentures and wax ups to the next level, part 2. It shows you some other of the flameless materials and some little tricks he shows you for using if you need to use something that's flameless. Part 1 was also good. So we're kind of building you up in steps. You can take it all the way there and go from there. So it's just right on. This was just a screenshot from a Whitmix webpage. You can see all the great little things they have and resources. Great company to work with and great products also. So here again, thank you for this. Now I'm going to get back on with Craig here in a little bit, and we can go over any questions or concerns. I know we're only about 30 minutes into it, but I wanted to leave a little bit of time to answer any questions.
Okay, well, right now there aren't any questions up on the board, which is fine. We certainly will entertain any questions that you want. You can just send those to us via the technical support department at Whitmix, and either by telephone call, which you see up there or did see on the screen, the 800 number for Whitmix, and then just go to technical support. Or you can send them to me if you'd like, which is cpickett@whitmix.com. And we'll make sure they get to Phil, and he can answer those questions for you. We told you it was going to be quick and easy, and it turns out that it is. So without any further ado, I think we've done a good job this morning. Please take this advice and go for it and use it wherever you can in the laboratory, instructing new technicians, new assistants, new EDDAs, anything that you'd like to use this for. It's going to be good. Hold on. Now we do have one question. Hang on. Let's see. Why don't you use preformed shapes?
Just as a technician, when I first learned how, we never used any preform. You can, it's very easy to do. I just like using the wax, especially going in, when we used to go straight into setup, I always just had the extra wax right there and to add on to start adding my teeth. So it's just a habit of mine.
Okay, so preferences are good. You can certainly use those preformed shapes. They are more expensive,
yeah, and that's
right?
why. Yes, they are a little bit more expensive, and so just the box of wax just seems to last a lot longer. And believe it or with the pieces that I cut off the back, I actually save, and I use them when I do like a partial, something that's not a dentulous. I'm able to use those pieces, and so I just try to be frugal with my wax.
Sure. So you kind of make your own preform shapes.
Exactly.
To use at a later date. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that question. All right. Well, hey, let's close up. Look for an email to come your way for the CDT credits. Make sure that you contact us and let us know. There will be a short test associated with this. It's something that's required by the NBC. I'm sure that we will work those questions with Phil and make sure they're completely complex for this webinar. And then if you have any other questions or issues regarding the webinars or any of our webinars, please feel welcome to get a hold of us and take care of it. Okay, thanks everybody. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you and see you at the next webinar.
Thank you, Craig. Can you hear me, Craig?